6th anniversary of Tibetans rising against the Chinese invasion in 1959, I want to send a message to those inside Tibet. You are not alone. Every single day we stand with you in solidarity. No matter what we do in exile, we know that our resistance is nothing without the courage and determination of our beloved Tibetans inside Tibet. For my father's generation, the occupation of Tibet was not history, it was the lived experience. My father grew up witnessing Chinese rule over Tibet, and as a young father, his greatest hope was his children would carry forward the spirit of resistance. His Holiness Dalai Lama was his guiding line, the beacon of hope for our future. Like me, thousands of Tibetan children have crossed the Himalayas, following in the footsteps of His Holiness, leaving behind families we may never see again. We make this perilous journey in search of an education that teaches our own language, traditions, and culture, and education we are denied under Chinese rule. Tibetan is not just a language. It is the key to preserving the ancient Indian wisdom of mental well-being, a treasure that humanity cannot afford to lose, especially in the times of global distress. Yet inside Tibet today, even children as young as 3 years old are forcibly placed in colonial boarding schools where Mandarin is the language of instruction. This is not just education, it is erasure, a systematic attempt to synthesize Tibetans into Han Chinese. I know this loss deeply. A few years ago, I lost my father in Lhasa, and I was not there to hold his hand in his final moments. But his last words remain with me. He said, "Be kind, especially to those who cannot think about kindness. And be where our precious jewel is. You will never be lost." Despite the heavy surveillance and suppression in Tibet, I still hear his message loud and clear. It reminds me that I must continue walking in the footsteps of our elders, and that the only true path to freedom is through non-violence. I now live in free country, and I have no immediate relatives in Tibet, and I can speak my mind and participate openly in protest. But I know that many Tibetans around the world do not have this privilege. Those with family inside Tibet live in constant fear of retaliation. Transnational repression follows us wherever we go. Tibetans, Uyghurs, Southern Mongolians, Hong Kongers, and Manchurians all face the long arm of Chinese authoritarian control beyond the homelands. Even Chinese descendants themselves are not safe, and Taiwan faces growing threats of aggression and intimidation. As a stateless person, I see the world differently. Carrying a Tibetan identity that is not legally recognized, I know what it feels like to struggle at immigration checkpoints simply because my existence challenged the narrative of a powerful state. And yet, the mere mention of Tibet, a land with no military, no economic influence, strikes fear in the Chinese Communist Party. The 20th century was an era of bloodshed, driven by raw human intelligence and survival instincts. But the 21st century must be different. It must be a century of dialogue. We humans are more than just intelligent beings. We have the capacity to love beyond our race, caste, creed, gender, and nation. We have the power to choose peace. Before I end, let me make one thing clear. Tibet was an independent nation of 1959, before the Chinese Communist invasion. Tibet has every right to fight for the independence. However, under the middle way approach, as an official policy of Tibetan government in exile, we are willing to live within the People's Republic of China if Tibetans are granted genuine autonomy and self-governance. This is not a surrender of our historical independence. It is a pragmatic approach to resolving the Tibetan issue while upholding our resistance against the current repression. But the Chinese Communist Party, despite its global power and its constant repetition of the propaganda, "Welcome to Motherland," remains too afraid to welcome Tibetans in Tibet and around the world for a simple dialogue. As a Remember the brave Tibetans back in Tibet and around the world. I pray that may Tibet be free, not only for Tibetans but for the world. May Tibet be free so that fragile Tibetan environment, the third pole, can continue providing fresh water to the 1.1 billion people downstream without the devastation caused by reckless dam constructions. May Tibet be free so that every person on this earth can access the deep reservoir of ancient Indian wisdom preserved in Tibetan texts and learn the art of true happiness, leading to a more peaceful world. May Tibet be free because every being on this planet, human and non-human, deserve to live with dignity and freedom. And may His Holiness the Dalai Lama live long to continue guiding the world towards non-violence and dialogue, the only true path to lasting peace. The day will come when the world will look to Tibet as an inspiration, a testament to the power of non-violent resistance of an ancient historical country. Bhagalo.